Okay, so here we are, late May 2020, and this is the next tap is on, this tap is on leadership during the pandemic. So this is part of the series of group EFT taps that we've been doing to support our emotional, mental, physical, spiritual health during these very complicated and chaotic times. So just welcoming everybody. And so here, we were just speaking about the need for women leaders, and we were speaking about just how the news is so upsetting. So we're going to take a moment and just feel into our feet and our hips and do some grounding. So inhaling through your nose all the way into your lower belly, and exhale through your mouth with a sigh. It's great to make that audible sound because it genuinely affects the tissues in your body. The sound moves the fluids in your tissues and it helps you come more down into your lower body. So we'll continue to do a series of breaths, breathing in through the nose and noticing as your breath goes into the heart center and the upper belly and the lower belly and into the pelvis. So breathing deep. And then exhaling through your mouth. And as you make that sound, just notice sensations in your body. So coming from your head down into your body. All the way down into your pelvis. And let's take a moment to feel the bones of the pelvic floor, the sacrum and tailbone, the pubic bone, so front to back dimension of the pelvic bowl. Bring your focus, your felt sense, imagination into that space and explore. Take your time. See the space as it tends to be perceived as more significant and get larger when we focus there and pay attention and explore. And then side to side, right hip bone to left hip bone. Just feeling the depth and the width of this expanse. So this is pelvic bowl is a really large, the power center, most especially for women, a power center for creating, for generation, regeneration. Very helpful to connect in with your pelvic bowl and invite your breath as you inhale to come all the way down into the pelvic bowl. And then if you'd like, you can place your hands over your navel for a moment and just sense into that area about 2 inches below your belly button and 2 inches inside your body, the dantium or the hara. This is a center of vitality. So one of the intentions I have for our tap today is that this tap be revitalizing in these ways that we're feeling worn down by leadership. So it can be really helpful to tune into that space, that dantium, which is a reservoir of any extra chi or life force energy that you accumulate. And so setting the intention that we generate some healthy, fresh, inspiring chi during the tap tonight that replenishes those parts of us that feel fatigued, those places in us that feel fatigued. And with the next exhalation, just imagine you're sending roots down through your legs and out your feet and into the earth. We're grounding into earth energy, nurturing, nourishing earth energy. And then just begin to receive through your roots. Can almost feel like gas in the tank, kind of sometimes I get this feeling like glub, glub, glub. So just really receiving into your feet, the gates, you open the gates of your feet, soles of your feet, and receiving nurturing and nourishing energy from the earth right into the bones of your feet and legs, up the calves and shins and the femurs, the thighs. And again, we're going to spend some time with the bones of the pelvic floor, the pelvic bowl, filling the bones with nurturing and nourishing earth energy, and beginning to recognize that your bones of your body, our bones, are another power center. They're a source of steadiness. So we're bringing this nurturing, nourishing earth energy and meeting the steadiness of the bones and amplifying the steadiness within us. So as if you're just drinking in this life-giving energy and continuing up the bones of the spine all the way to the shoulders, the collarbones, and down the bones of the arms and fingers. So tune in right now to a sense of steadiness and receiving nourishment and nurturing those sensations in your body. So we're setting your nervous system to a place of greater calm and groundedness and centeredness, presence, connection with your power, the power particularly in your bones and in your pelvic bowl, vitality, regeneration, steadiness. So as this tap is being recorded and it will be posted online later, I'm not going to give a big introduction to tapping because everyone on this call is very familiar with tapping. So when you're ready, we'll give it another few seconds of meditation, and then we'll go ahead and go into the tap. And I invite you to call on any helpful guides or anyone you would like to invoke, such as a leader you admire. This could be a living person or non-living. In my preparations, I was thinking about Martin Luther King as a leader that I admired. Certainly admire AOC. And we discuss the leaders of Iceland and New Zealand and Germany, women leaders who've done a really good job with the pandemic, protecting their people. Let's go ahead and bring your thumbs to your upper chest and just massage, feel around in your upper chest. Find a couple of tender spots. Okay, so when you're there, and you can just rub little circles, you don't have to dig in hard. We're just contacting these spots. And we'll begin with the setup for the tap. So I'll speak the words and then you repeat after me. And if the words that I say don't resonate with you, change the words to words that do resonate, because tapping is effective because we're tapping on the language of our subconscious, of our bodies. What's our truth, even if it's not a permanent truth or not a truth that you want to acknowledge. It's a truth that's been encoded in some way or stored in the subconscious. So it's in the body. And it may not be true, but it may be something that you believed was true when you were 3 years old or 12 years old, or under duress as somebody pressured you to accept as truth. So don't judge your own what feels true to you, because tapping's a dynamic process and things will change in a good way by just tapping on what's true to you. So change the words if what I say doesn't resonate with you. So let's go with some deep breaths again, breathing in through the nose. And out through the mouth, and just knowing that if you yawn, I yawn a lot when I tap. Sometimes people burp. You might want a drink of water. You might want tissues. Just have all that in mind. Even though the news is so upsetting, I'm open to being kind to myself about this. Or it could be, I'm being kind to myself about this. Even though the news is so disturbing, I recognize the need for me to be steady and nourished. So let's go to the brow points, and you can use 1 or 2 fingers of both hands, or you can just tap on one side at a time if you prefer. The news is so upsetting. So upsetting. So upsetting. Under the temples, I hate to turn on the news. I feel tense when I even think about watching the news or listening to the news or reading the news. Bad news all the time. Some cheekbones. Bad news. So much bad news. Bad news. Bad news. Under the nose, crazy news. Crazy stuff going on. Really bad news. It's so upsetting. So upsetting. So take a moment and pause and just tune in to yourself. If 10 is so upset you're practically flying out of your body, and 1 is like, meh, not really, very upsetting at all, what number pops up for you? And you can type it into the chat line if you'd like to. Like, are you upset at a level of 10 or 8 or 6? Just whatever number pops up. You don't have to think too much about it. But I invite you just to share that now. It's kind of a good way to assess what happens in the tap. And it's totally optional. Okay, so we have an 8. And a 7. And then going to the upper chest where you just tap in circles. and a 6. This is good. We're in sequence here. 8, 7, 6. The news is so upsetting. And then tap on your bottom rib. If I can show you the spot right here. News is so upsetting. Like they're trying to destroy the peace. And then under the arms, it'll be right underneath the arms on what would be your bra line if you had a bra on. This news is so upsetting. And we're going to go to the karate chop point. I feel like I'm being manipulated by all this bad news. Now let's go to the base of the wrist. But I feel like I have to listen to the news. I have to read it. I have to stay tuned in. And then tap on the thumb. It's possible I'm putting a lot of pressure on myself to keep up with these horror stories. Index finger. It's possible that I'm putting a lot of pressure on myself to follow so many details that just get more and more complicated and more aggravating. Go to the middle finger. There's no consistency. Things keep changing. We keep getting told, do this, do that. Bottom of the ring finger, wear a mask. Masks won't help you much. Wear a mask for someone else. I refuse to wear a mask. Don't wear a mask. So we have leaders telling us to wear a mask. And go to the pinky finger, and they're not wearing masks. They're not role modeling. They're not leading by modeling what they're asking us to do. And that feels hurtful. That feels negligent. It feels unsafe. Go to the top of the head, sides of the head, back of the head. My level of safety is so much lower because the leaders seem so unreliable. So unsteady. They keep changing the rules on us. Go to the brow points. They don't tell the truth. We can't trust our leaders. It's very disturbing. We can't trust our leaders. It's really upsetting to my body. It's really upsetting to my emotions. It's really scary. The leaders have so much more power than we do. Cheekbones. It's really hard to have leaders that we cannot trust. I don't trust so many of the leaders. And I feel it on a really personal level because the world I grew up in my family, there was also leadership that I couldn't really trust. My parents were leaders, but they weren't always there for me. And they weren't always reliable. And maybe they weren't even always truthful. And maybe these are my earliest authority figures. So when I even think about leaders or tune into how I feel about leaders, come to the bottom rib, it's possible that I already feel worried about the quality of leadership. Let's just tap on, I'm not sure I've experienced a lot of really good leadership in my life. I know that I've had teachers that weren't good leaders. I've been in groups or in work environments where the leadership wasn't that good. So it's discouraging because I like to have good leaders. I think it could make a real difference for me and for all of us. I'll go to the thumb. A good leader to me would be one who cares for the welfare of everyone in the family or everyone in the business at the company or everyone in the office or everyone in the country. Not just themselves. A good leader cares about the quality of life for the people who they're leading. And isn't just trying to enrich themselves or give themselves all the good stuff, all the focus, all the attention, all the power. Go the middle finger. What would our lives be like if people understood that leading is just as much about following as about leading? A good leader follows the needs and the wants of the people that they're leading. A good leader has a kind of call and response or creates an action, sends out a wave, makes a declaration, sets a policy, and takes feedback from advisors, from other people whose lives will be affected, from people who've been through this before, or people who've been trained in this or have expertise in it. Good leadership is reasonable. There are good reasons for things, and the reasons that were given, for example, for wearing masks would be just to respect and support one another, to sustain life. So anyone who's pro-life, it makes sense that they would also be pro wearing a mask out in public to protect other people, just in case the person wearing the mask is carrying the virus and doesn't even know it. Brow points. This is not about taking away their rights. This is about the welfare of other people and how we're all connected. How can we let the people know that the welfare of all of us is connected? But some people have a certain lifestyle or a level of income where they don't really have to deal with a lot of the inconveniences. Some people can continue to work from home or work online, and other people can't. So needs are really different. How can we have leadership that's so nuanced and so attuned to the needs of the people that leaders recognize that needs are going to be different in different situations, in different areas of the country, depending on how hard areas were hit by the virus, and what kind of supplies they have, and how many hospital beds they have, and what their needs are. Go to the ribs. Just as the people of this country and all over the world really have different needs. Some people are living in neighborhoods with a lot of density of population. They need a lot more protection and a lot more care. They need more testing and more contact tracing. They need more funding. They need all of these services to a larger degree than people who live in less dense areas and where the rates of infection are lower. Wouldn't it be wonderful to see people being well cared for, people from all walks of life? It's just that people on the news are so combative, so polarizing, so rude to each other. I'm really concerned about our leadership. They seem very haphazard, they seem very disorganized, and they seem indifferent to the health needs of most of the people of this country. Again and again, they indicate that they're more interested in wielding power and dominating, having control over people and money and things. They don't appreciate a good conversation that might challenge the ways they're thinking. They tend to be really closed-minded and think they already have all the answers. They don't trust science. They lump science into some category that they deem as untrustworthy or false or fake news. So that's disturbing there. So fake news, let's tap on this a bit. Fake news, fake news, fake news. We're going to turbo tap, just fake news, calling the real news fake, calling the lies real, calling the real news fake, and calling the lies real. It's so upsetting. It's so disturbing. I just want to check in with all of you. For me, that's one of the really disturbing things that goes on is this flat out denial of scientific evidence and of authorities who are well trained in many different aspects of the pandemic that can do so much to help us if only they were supported by our leaders and policies, governmental policies, and financial investment in the most effective steps we can take instead of touting questionable drugs that have been untested and have harmful side effects. It's hard for us to know, it's hard for me to know what to believe sometimes or what to think. Please feel free to type anything into the chat line if you'd like something specifically included as we're doing the tap. We have a nice small group, it's easy to do that. The news is so overwhelming. It's so dire and so dark. Fake news accusations are very disturbing. I mean, accusing real news or accurate news as being fake. Yeah. So sometimes news comes out and it's real, it's evidence-based, it's scientifically based, it's been vetted, and it gets denied, right? That, yeah. And when that happens, it's very disturbing. It's like they're lying to us deliberately. They're lying to us. It's so disorienting. It's confusing. We've been told what's going on and what will help us and what's a smart thing to do, an effective action to take. And our leaders then accuse evidence-based science statements as being fake news or statements about what truly happened. It's very disorienting when the leaders of our country have so much leeway to lie and change the subject and gaslight. Why do so many people see sociopathy as success? Why do so many people feel free to mistreat other people, to exploit them, to twist reality to make them seem less than or unworthy or not a valuable contribution to society, or that they don't belong? Why do so many people, even in leadership, feel that it's their privilege and prerogative to manipulate financial situations, corporate guidelines and laws, environmental protection, to manipulate all of this in order to make more money? I'm bringing kindness to myself and compassion for how difficult this is and how disturbing and upsetting. So disorienting, so disturbing. Take a moment and feel where you feel that sense of how disturbing this is. Your stomach might feel tight, your lower belly, maybe it's your jaw. Just take a moment and just feel into your body. Feel the sensations. It's okay to feel these sensations, how disturbing this is. We can even slow this down. So let those disturbing sensations get even a little more intense. And we're still tapping very lightly. Oh, so disturbing. So feeling it, just noticing where you're feeling it, and you can tap on that. I'm feeling it in my gut. I'm feeling it in my thighs. Wherever you're feeling it, I'm feeling it in my jaws, hands. Ah, and I'm meeting myself with this steadiness of my bones. And I'm bringing in that nurturing and nourishing earth energy that is my birthright as a soul, having a human experience, a human life. I'm tapping into the nurturing and nourishing energy of the earth that allows me to have a body, this body that I'm living my life in. And I'm filling myself with nurturing, nourishing earth energy so that I can turn my attention back to the leadership while holding a space for myself to stay steady. Steady. Giving myself encouragement to stay steady. And you're repeating after me to stay steady and grounded and true to myself. To stay connected with nurturing and nourishing earth energy. I'm rooting in again into the earth, into nurturing, nourishing earth energy. letting myself receive this energy into my body, up through my feet, up my legs, up my spine, down the arms, nurturing, nourishing earth energy, focusing on the bones of my body, power center of steadiness. So this is a somatic, just sensing into the steadiness in your bones. You want to tap into that, tune into that. It's, it's like we're turning the volume up on the steadiness that's already available to us. Just because we have bones and we're connected with the earth and the rocks in the earth, the stones in the earth, there's a lot of steadiness. And these are qualities that we can receive and imprint into our bodies as well. So there we go. I feel that energy shifting in the group, just shifting into greater steadiness. I'm giving myself permission to be steady and to stay connected to what nourishes me. Under the nose, even as I notice all this sociopathy, all these sociopathic actions and words that people are saying and doing. I'm staying grounded and connected with my steadiness, the steadiness of my bones, of the rocks and stones of the earth, the nurturing and nourishing earth energy. Just because I'm paying attention and being aware of how divisive all of this is, doesn't mean I have to leave myself or leave my roots or my steadiness or my bones. What if I tune into whatever news I need to tune into or choose to tune into from this place of steadiness in my bones? What if I take in useful information from the news without going out? So I would say, sometimes if you think about it, when we hear the news, when our adrenaline is up, when we get triggered, we're literally in our nervous system, energetically, with our focus, leaving ourselves and going to the disaster and getting consumed by it, blending with the disaster. Does that make sense? I'm looking at you because I can see you on the screen. So yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I'm starting to notice that when I read this news that's upsetting to me, that's sociopathic, that's divisive, where they're attacking journalists who are doing their very best to tell the truth and to support the safety and well-being of all the people. I'm giving myself permission to stay with my bones, stay with my pelvic bowl, stay with these power centers of vitality in my pelvic bowl, life force energy. Feet on the ground, grounding in the earth, roots in the earth. Big breath. I'm coming back to my body now. I'm acknowledging that I have the right and the power to stay connected with my connection with the earth, with nurturing and nourishing earth energy under the arms, with my bones, with steadiness, grounding into the earth. And what does the news look like from this perspective? I see them attacking journalists Let's just tap on this. We're going to turbo tap. So that's how we bring down the charge on something. Attacking journalists, if you have a somatic, like your stomach clenches or some part of your body has a contraction, that's a charge. And so there you could even look at, is that on a 1 to 10? Would that be an 8 or 7, or what the charge is? So when you have a charge that's pretty high, I would say anything over a 5 or over, then it's great to turbo tap. And so in this case, we would just be tapping again, attacking journalists, attacking journalists, attacking journalists, attacking journalists. And then go to the thumb, attacking, attack, attacking, attack, attacking, attacking. So you use the word that has the most charge on it for you. And also when we're tapping on this attacking, we're also tapping on all the times, index finger, when we have felt attacked by someone in our lives, whether it was a parent or a wild dog or a sibling or whoever, someone where we have felt attacked. It doesn't have to be major trauma, but we feel attacked sometimes, even on Facebook, just by comments people make. So all this attacking, attacking, attacking. I feel like I'm being attacked. I see the journalist being attacked, and I feel like I'm being attacked. When I see the journalist being attacked, I'm afraid that if I speak my truth, I'll be attacked, even if what I'm saying is reasonable. The journalists are attacked, even when what they're saying is reasonable and true, even when there's documentation, even when there's lots of evidence. They get attacked. And that feeling of being attacked is just too familiar to me. I've been attacked at times when people yelled at me or accused me of lying when I wasn't lying. I have felt attacked many times in my life. And even though I have felt attacked at different times in my life, I'm starting to notice that I have weathered all of those experiences. And I have the steadiness of my bones, and I have my roots in the earth, and I have the power and vitality of my pelvic bowl. There are places in me who have never been attacked, because there are places in me that are intact, that are so empowered and so pure and so untouched by attackers or attacking energy. And I'm calling on these places in me. It might be one cell in your body. It might be your whole heart. There might be places, there might be a memory coming up, or places in your body, or a place where you feel safe to speak your truth and you've been believed and someone has said, good job, or I trust you, or yeah, that was wise. Thank you. That was smart. I learned something from you. Just see if you can tune into any situation like that. It can be very small. Even you showed someone how to turn their computer on and off. I don't know. I mean, it could be anything. Showed someone how to drive a car. I mean, there are many things, and we do this all the time. We do show things to people. So let's take a moment now to notice the times when we have been appreciated. We want to really bring that sensation into the body. So this is somatic, so that the nervous system can reset to these times when I have felt appreciated, or when I know I've been useful or done something that was of value and helped out in a situation. It could be a volunteer situation. It could be when someone asked you for directions to a store and you gave them directions. All this steadiness within me. Focusing on the steadiness within me, bringing my attention there with the intention of magnifying my own steadiness. Let's go under the arms. I'm staying steady in this moment, even as I call out the outright lying and deceiving. I'm staying steady and rooted, grounded in the earth, steadiness running through my bones, filling my whole body, nurturing and nourishing earth energy, while I think about the people in the government and in corporations who are attacking journalists. I see that they're attacking journalists. I see that they're lying and deceiving us. I see how divisive it is. This is so divisive. And I'm staying connected with the earth, with my roots, with the steadiness of my bones. I'm receiving nurturing and nourishing energy from the earth, even now, as I see how sociopathic so many of their actions are. So many of the things they say or do are really cruel, or they're harmful to society. It's pathological way of relating to society. That's why it's called sociopathic. They're not building us up. They're not building us up as a whole. And even as I notice this and critique it, I'm assessing it. If I can do this, it is a form of judgment. And sometimes judgment, when you're doing an assessment, you could actually do a grounded assessment. If you wanted to take the time, you could write out a series of 3 statements where you say, so if you, for example, we're grounding that this particular action or thing that was said is sociopathic. And so the way you would do that would be, first you would define sociopathic. So for purposes right now, we're going to say sociopathic is harmful to people. Harmful to people, sociopathic. So then you could name 3 things. You could write them out that are sociopathic that you've seen. You could ground them. And so by grounding them, like it's somebody want to write out something in particular that comes up you see as a sociopathic act, if you want to put that in the chat line, and we'll just tap through that. Yeah, so the lying is sociopathic, because when people lie to us and when people in power lie to us, they're affecting a lot of people, confusing a lot of people, hurting a lot of people. When leaders, people in a lot of power, people who have a lot of power over a lot of people and over us as a society, who have the focus of news on them, who have the power to make major decisions and change legislation or not follow guidelines, use their own personal agendas, use guidelines that promote their own personal agendas, who aren't thinking about the good of the whole, lying and deceiving. This is sociopathic. Leaders need to think about the good of the whole. That's part of the definition of a leader. So as you ground this, that, you know, it could be a particular thing someone has done about that's lying and deceiving. And you might feel your body then calming down, because once you bring your understanding from the subconscious forward to the conscious, as we're speaking now, then you can begin to, when you use the word like complete the information loop. So one reason why we get so anxious and go into fight or flight and have adrenal overdrive and leave our bodies, literally, like we go into a panic. When we go into a panic, we're not in our bodies. We've left our bodies. The thing that we're panicked about has drawn us. It's an attraction in a negative way. And it's captured our energy and our attention. So what we're wanting to do here is remind ourselves that we can ground and center and stay connected with our bones and the nurturing, nourishing earth energy while the storm is going on over there. I'm not saying it doesn't affect us. It's going to affect you in a different way. So when you let it come to you in a way, so you can see it, you can feel the energy of it, but you're not leaping out with your attention toward the person or the situation. Does that make sense? It's a somatic, yeah. So you can start to feel the difference when you, like, you're more lucid in the critique, and you're more empowered to take action or do something about it, or formulate some coherent thoughts about it that can help you take action going forward, or have helpful conversations with like-minded people. You can start to lay the ground. How can I be effective here in small ways? I mean, really identifying, for us to become leaders, we need to be able to stay present and stay grounded and stay connected to a source of support, nurturing, nourishing earth energy and steadiness. Even when we're feeling the understandable, completely makes sense, outrage over what we're seeing so much of, is that the leaders of our country are valuing profit, financial profit for themselves and for the very wealthy over people's lives, not just the quality of their lives, their very lives. It's like they care more about power over power to, let's say, having power over life or death, power over death. There's so much destruction going on to the culture, to the earth, to us as a society, to the native peoples of this continent, to the African slaves who were brought over here, to the middle class people, to women. There's so many groups that are being oppressed in various ways, and we get to stay grounded and centered and connected with the source of true nourishment. Even while all this is going on, we're claiming our strength, we're claiming our power, and even if we don't know what to do moment by moment, maybe that's okay. Maybe that's not what's being called for. Maybe we're not called, maybe it's the situation isn't even calling for an immediate answer or a direct answer. This is big. It's okay if it takes us a lot more time before we have a coherent way forward through this. These are some very big phenomena going on and events. We've got the pandemic, we've got trade wars, we've got climate change. We've got all kinds of excesses of military force and might. So we're coming back into grounding into the earth. We're just acknowledging these things. We're not giving our power away to them right now. We're not pretending they don't exist, and we're not flying off into all of the possibilities that all of these sociopathic behaviors, outcomes could be. We're not going there because that's not happening in the moment. That's not happening now. What's happening now is we're tapping, we're grounding in with the earth. We're doing our very best to stay centered, to continue to receive nurturing and nourishing earth energy. This is really important. It may be 1,000 times more important to do this now while the institutions are crumbling. So we've been, for a long time, there have been predictions of, when you talk about the age of Aquarius, of a massive transformation. The age of Kali Yuga. We're in a dark age, and we've been able to pretend that it wasn't so for a long time, and now we can't pretend that anymore. We're in Kali Yuga, which is, I believe, a Hindu term. It's a huge epic of history, or Buddhist term. It's an age of great change and darkness. It's kind of like the Dark Ages in European history, and the Greeks had dark ages. So we're in a dark age right now, and astrology confirms that. So some of this is energies lining up in the cosmos or in the universe that are also influencing what's going on Earth and the people going on Earth. So all I'm saying is, you don't have to have a big belief in astrology, but they do line up. If you listen to the very refined and sophisticated astrologers, or the very erudite astrologers, they will talk quite a bit about how much they line up with forces of Saturn and Pluto and Uranus. And so we're not going to go into that exactly, but just knowing that this is a time of polarity, of great conflict, black and white, going from the pendulum swinging. A lot of the polarization of people of being so divisive is also happening on an astrological level. So our bodies, we are made from the stars, and it really makes sense that we're affected by what's going on in the cosmos as well. So some of this, the age of Kali Yuga, which has been charted and predicted for, as far as I know, centuries, maybe 1,000 years or 2,000 years. I don't know the details exactly, but that this has been known and predicted, this age of Kali Yuga. And we're full on in Kali Yuga now. So what we're seeing, institutions are crumbling, and a lot of them need to crumble because they're not working well. They're sociopathic, they're exploitative, not supporting the earth. So even though we want all these good things, we want the earth to be healthy and well. We want to be healthy and well. We want people to be safe, and everyone to have enough food to eat and a place to live. We want refugees to be treated with kindness and welcoming, to be helped. We want a government that helps people instead of exploiting people. It helps people, supports life, supports nature. We want, well, I'm just going to say a little bit about what I want, which is fewer extractive technologies. We want to get off our addiction to oil and gas. We want to live with greater spaciousness, respect for the earth, respect for ourselves and each other, more time for community, more time for creativity, less pressure, less hustle and bustle. So our institutions are crumbling, And when we're close up to it and we're in it, it's not comfortable. It's just not very comfortable. Just acknowledging that a lot of this transformational process is not very comfortable. It stirs up our old fears. It stirs up our anger. It stirs up our worries. It stirs up our outrage. We can see how unfair things are. We're seeing more clearly than the people in this country have ever seen. We're seeing more clearly the dynamics of racial politics, of gender politics, the dynamics of the dominator consciousness or the dominator mode of ruling. So the dominator mode, which is really very patriarchal, it's power over death or power by threatening death. So we have a lot of instruments of war. We've had so many wars over the last 2 centuries. And in truth, there's always been war, as far as we know, but it hasn't been as lethal as it is now. So this age of Kali Yuga is a very heightened time of all of these shadow elements. And we are here on some level, if you're willing to see it this way, it can be very helpful to just embrace the possibility that I was made for these times. I agreed to be alive during these times. At some level, there's a lot of potential here as the institutions are crumbling to create something better. The fear is that something worse could happen, could result, right? Yeah. And that's certainly, we've seen it in the 20th century. We certainly saw what happened in World War II, Nazi Germany, and what was going on in Japan and Italy, fascism. And so it's a legitimate fear. It's a legitimate worry to have. And yet here we are tapping into nurturing, nourishing earth energy, the steadiness of our bones. I'm starting to understand that even though all this is going on, all of this disruption, all of this upset, all of this being triggered by the news and by what people say and what the leaders say and do, how they act, all this activation of fight, flight, freeze, fear. I'm bringing a lot of kindness and compassion to myself. It's exhausting to live with so much anxiety and fear and worry. And it's not helping me live my better life, live my best life. It's not helping me be a better mom or friend or worker or leader. I want to lead in whatever ways I lead from a place of being centered, grounded, nourished, and present. I do my best leading, my best helping, my best informing when I'm centered and grounded and receiving nourishment, when I'm letting myself receive nurturing, nourishing energy from the earth, steadiness of my bones, even in the age of Kali Yuga. Doesn't mean I have to be swept up in the tornado or the wind and storm. I don't have to be energetically swept up in that. There's nobody at my door literally attacking me. And sometimes I feel attacked by what I read or hear or see in the news. So I'm giving myself permission, and I'm encouraging myself, instructing myself when I feel that way to stop the minute I notice the stress level going up, the fear coming up, the anxiety. The minute I notice I'm breathing shallow or holding my breath, that's a cue. That's a message from my body to stop, back away from the news. And to do this, you have to really resist the allure of the adrenaline rush, which can possess us. Because the adrenaline wants us to just go off running with it. Run, 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 run. Go right into fight or flight. Because the body, the nervous system, isn't distinguishing between, okay, this is bad news. I don't like it. They're being jerks again. They're doing the sociopathic things they do. They're lying. They're deceiving us. They're attacking journalists. They're profiting over other people's lives. That's what they value. That has meaning to them. They think it's perfectly okay. It's understandable that I feel outraged. And I'm going to do it out. I'm going to do my outrage from a place of staying grounded and centered and connected with nourishment from the earth, connected with the steadiness of my bones. This outrage is because I want justice. This outrage is legitimate. It's totally legitimate. I don't need to go spitting it out or spinning it out in any ways that are ineffective. And immobilizing myself with fear and adrenaline from my nervous system with high cortisol levels doesn't help me. Doesn't help me be the person that I came here to be. I don't really need any other reason than that to know that it's okay to back away from the news when I start getting overstimulated, when I start getting triggered, attached to it, adrenaline rush on the roller coaster, high cortisol levels, high stress levels. When I start noticing it, maybe I'm getting heated up, maybe I'm breathing really shallow. These are all messages from my body, cues that I can come back, recenter, reground. And the more that I get used to feeling nourished and nurtured, steady and grounded, to use these states, if I choose, as my inner compass, as my birthright. But doesn't mean I have control over everything going on around me. It means that I have a greater agency. I have the potential. I have the knowing, at least some of the time, that I can stay grounded and centered. I can reground and centered. I can resource myself. So this is about building resilience. There is a lot of hard stuff going on, and all indications are that this is going to go on for quite a while. So I'm encouraging myself to spend as much time and effort, maybe even money, as it takes to learn and teach myself and develop resilience. What is resilience? Resilience is regenerative. So maybe I do get upset. There's lots of things to get upset about. How do I recover from that upset? Giving myself permission not just to stuff it down and pretend it never happened and go about my day. I might stop and do some deep breathing or box breath. I might do some tapping on myself. I might tap with this video. I might do push-ups or jumping jacks. I might talk with a friend or journal. I might take an Epsom salt bath. I might yell or take a plastic bat and hit a pillow. I might, any other ideas, things that you do to discharge that energy? I might do that Bioenergetic exercise, shaking my body all over, that helps release fear and excess tension. To discharge the energy rather than letting it hijack me. Because when the energy of adrenaline and high cortisol, triggered by the news, the sociopathic things that people are saying and doing, profiting over people's lives, the lying, the deceiving, attacking journalists, all of that is truly happening. And even though I don't like it, I'm accepting that it's happening, or I'm open to accepting that it is actually happening because I see it and I know about it and it is actually happening. So what if I stop resisting the fact that it's happening? What I resist, I understand, gets even stronger. So what if I, just for an experiment, decide in this moment to stop resisting what's happening, to acknowledge that it is happening, and to begin to accept that it's happening, it's happening. Deception is happening, lying is happening, journalists are being attacked, profiting over people's, placing profit over people's lives, that's happening in the laws and the policies and in the language. Our institutions are crumbling. I accept that this is actually happening. I accept that this is actually happening. So much is happening that feels destructive, that feels harmless, like the ground is falling from beneath our feet. All of this is actually happening. I'm not making it up. I'm not imagining it. I'm not exaggerating it. It's really happening. And even as I know this in a grounded and centered way, I'm staying with my body, and I'm choosing not to pour gasoline on the fire by indulging my high cortisol spikes or adrenaline rushes. I'm giving myself permission, and I'm encouraging myself to begin to notice somatically what's going on in my body. Is my blood pressure going up? Am I getting heated up? Am I getting trembly? Am I clenching? Am I feeling like I'm on an addictive, like must read, the next article, must get frantic? Am I getting frantic and panicky because of something I'm reading or seeing? When those times come, giving myself permission to pause, to remind myself that I can breathe, that I can step back. I'm not abandoning anyone by stepping back. I can ground into the earth. I can feel the steadiness of my bones. And I can notice something that's really good in my life. Like for me, I have a really comfortable bed. I love my pillows. I love my bed. And it could be that simple. I love the green grass in my yard. I love the flowers that are blooming. So just giving ourselves permission to come back to steadiness, because we need this steadiness in order to navigate through these times. And at least astrologically, all the indications are that this is going to go to something like this, these chaotic, unraveling, dismantling times, institutions crumbling, the lying and deceiving, attacking truth, profiting over people's lives. We've got, at least astrologically, I have no way to know how to vet this if it's true, but it makes sense to me Things will be changing, that we'll see at least the astrological configurations of that will be very different by 2027. So that's a ways off. This is not a sprint. This is a marathon that we're running. So given that, it makes sense to give ourselves permission to pace ourselves, and to pace ourselves by coming back to what has meaning for us, what has meaning for me, what nourishes me, grounds me, centers me, helps me tune in to the steadiness of my bones. So let's tap. I'd like everybody just type something into the chat line, like what works for you. Like for me, it's I'll go out and shoot hoops in my driveway. I have a basketball goal. I love to play basketball. I just love to shoot hoops or ride my bike around in the evenings when it's cool, or work in the garden. But so what's steadying to you? What do you find steadying? Go ahead and tap that in, type that in to the chat line. I even find doing laundry to be steadying. Walking in nature. Thank you. So walking in nature, waking up, walking up the mountain, walking along the beach, working in my yard. So for me, working in my yard, my garden makes a big difference. And actually, I just went to the beach today and it was great. It was such a wonderful reset for my nervous system. Highly recommend this time outdoors, being in nature, away from all the electronics, from all the news. So it's possible that we are in a transformational process that's epic. And if that's the case, then what many of us are wanting the results that we're wanting to see happen or help create, co-create. Some people use the word manifest. I feel like that can be a little heavy sometimes, manifest, but co-create, because we're all creating our own experience as we go along. We're at the very least co-creating it. We have agency. Doesn't mean we have control over the whole thing or even our experience, but we have input into it. We can influence it. We can influence it by, I'm gonna go with this list here, take a long bubble bath when you're tired or you feel really stressed or really like you've done some really deep processing, emotional processing, you need restoration. This is when regenerative practices are really important. It's just like we need regenerative agriculture for the earth. Once we get that in place as a species, as humans start to practice more and more regenerative agriculture, there's going to be a lot of healing for nature and for all the plants and the animals and the insects and us. Regenerative agriculture. So we're using regenerative practices such as our breath and our grounding and going in nature and feeling gratitude and pleasure, relaxation, some kind of adventure that feels really nourishing. All of that is regenerative. Yeah. So let's finish up here. I wasn't watching the clock very well, so I'm going to finish up here because it is 8 o'clock. Just loving and accepting ourselves, giving ourselves permission to invest ourselves in regenerative practices within us for our bodies, our emotional bodies, our minds, our spirit. Let's just tap all over the body, tap on your head, and make 3 statements you can say to yourself. You can tap them in if you want to. Just I feel calmer now. I have a little different way to deal with the news, whatever those statements are for you. Great. So thank you, everyone. And anyone who needs to leave, you can do so now. I'm going to stop the recording so we can then have some sharing.